Welcome back to Recall the Midwife. This week we are discussing Series 4, Episode 5. I'm Becky.
I'm Alex.
I'm Jen. A reminder that this week's episode deals with mental health and mental illness, suspected child abuse, and alcoholism. So if those are topics you would prefer to skip this time, we understand and hope you join us for the next one. In this week's episode, we meet the Pendergrass family. Janice gives birth to baby Raymond with Sister Julienne's help. The Pendergrass are Christian scientists, and after complaining that Raymond is constantly crying and can't settle, Sister Julienne checks in. She notices that Raymond has a collarbone fracture, but assumes it's an uncommon but possible side effect of giving birth. Raymond continues to struggle, and when he goes to the hospital for care, they find a fractured leg. Child abuse is suspected, and Raymond is removed to live with a foster family while there is an investigation. He suffers another injury, and Dr. Turner makes the diagnosis of brittle bone disorder. The Pendergrass are relieved but upset at the removal of Raymond and the investigation, and an even more overworked than usual Dr. Turner is in crisis. Sheila sends him home from the clinic and takes over not just as receptionist but as a nurse, which reconnects her with her profession and gives Dr. Turner the time to recover. Barbara connects with an expectant mother, Miss Katoon, and she learns she is Sylheti and sets out to find a local woman who can help her translating as she cares for her through the end of her pregnancy. When the case turns serious and Barbara suspects diphtheria, Dr. Turner is called in to assist. Time off and gratitude from the community for all his help and treatment over the years has helped revive him, and he runs to Mrs. Katoon and Barbara's side. Last, Trixie is processing her breakup with Tom, and Nonnatus House rallies around her. There we go.
Ladies, before
Yes.
we start this episode, I just want to say, this episode was the episode that sparked my idea for the podcast.
Ooh!
It was!
Yes, it was me, everyone. You can thank me later. But yeah, this is the episode that I watched, and I thought, do you know what? I would love to watch an episode where people talk about, to listen to a podcast, sorry, where people talk about this episode, because there's some things in this episode that made me lol. It was the bit with the nurse uniform, you know, when Sheila wears the uniform and then Dr. Turner doesn't recognise her and says nurse, and then he's like, "Ooh." And I genuinely thought that would be hilarious. So this is the actual episode that sparked this idea. And I was like, girls, I've got an idea. What we could do, right, is watch an episode of Call the Midwife and then talk about it, and we can call it Recall the Midwife. What do you think? And you were both like, no, they weren't.
I was like, I'm not sure about this.
You actually were. You did take persuading.
I saw the genius immediately, and
I am
signed
very, very
on.
glad you both agreed to do it. So thank you, ladies. Just wanted to say that. Yeah.
I didn't realize this was the one. Well, and speaking of kind of hilarious moments, we'll get there, but there's a scene where Dr. Turner is running after Mrs. Pendergrass from like an office into the like baby nursery, and it is the most hilarious running on his part.
I know.
It was so good.
Also,
that was another thing.
Also, it's the speed of his running. It's like she didn't have that much of a head start on him.
That's exactly what I thought. She didn't have that much of a head start.
Well,
also, just really quick as well, because we'll go back to the Pendergrass. The scene at the start when they're all got their feet in water, in cold water, because it's so hot.
Yeah.
That reminds me of my pregnancy. So I gave birth on the hottest day of the year in like 2017. Yeah. And the day before, I was in the garden with an ice cream with my feet in cold ice water, crying. So hot.
Oh, summer is my
I think
least
before
favorite
we start, we need to talk about the pronunciation of the Prendergrass. I can't say it now. It's Prendergast.
Yeah, I thought it was Prendergast.
Yeah, I
What
think
did
we're
I
all
say?
saying it slightly differently.
Oh, I said Pendergrass.
Yeah.
So
Prendergast.
it's Prendergast.
Gast.
So there's two R's. There's Prendergast, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay, that's my fault. Well, at least I was only one letter off instead of the whole name being wrong this time. So as our OG listeners will know, I have a brain disease where I constantly forget people's names, say the wrong name, interchange names, and all of that. So at least I got it mostly right.
We also meet Violet in this episode.
Violet Buckle. Well, future Violet Buckle.
And Sister Mary Cynthia. I screamed with delight. Screamed with delight.
Yeah,
But Fred, I was like, what is Violet's surname? Because at one point, I don't know if it's in this episode or the next episode, but Fred calls her Mrs. G. And I'm like, what's her surname? So I looked it up and it's literally G. It's G.
Well, I knew I've got a cycle shop near me that's a man who's got the surname G. So I knew about the surname G. So it was normal, but yeah
I thought he was just abbreviating it.
Like Honey G. That's one for British listeners.
Just so I understand, because the way that Fred explained it when they were talking about the Mrs. Katoon, the Sylheti woman that Barbara was trying to connect with.
Yeah.
So Violet was married to a man who was friends with this Sylheti man?
I thought Violet took over the shop.
Oh, no. She just took...
No, I don't think she did. I think she's had it for years. I thought they were saying that Violet's ex-husband who's died was friends with the Sylheti man, yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Maybe me and Jenn are wrong. She said Prendergast, for God's sake.
I thought, what was his name?
Whose name?
The man who died.
Oh, I definitely don't know that name.
I don't know that.
Sure.
Because I thought Fred said that he had the button and bow shop.
Oh.
And then Violet took over the shop and she might know who the woman is. Okay,
right.
that makes more sense.
She did know. It was Josie.
And she might have had it for years. We don't know when he died.
That's also a very good fact.
Yeah.
Also, what I'd also like to point out about this button and bow shop is that we've only just met Violet. And when Fred goes to the button and bow shop for the first time with Barbara, he's like, oh, here it is. In future episodes, we're going to see that people are never out of this shop. They're constantly buying things from the button and bow shop.
Yeah, but also, if you notice how far away the shop is from the actual Nonnatus, it's around one corner. They have to walk past it every time they go past under that bridge. So
should we talk about which storyline should we go? There's two storylines, isn't there? There's the Prendergast and then there's a mirror cartoon.
And then Dr. Turner is kind of
first.
And Dr. Turner is kind of a through line for both of them.
Yeah.
Let's do Prendergast first.
This is just going to be an episode of us being really careful about how we say things.
Well, first time for everything. So, Raymond Prendergast is born, and the heat. I was like, I put my notes here. Giving birth in heat, I feel her, but not on the.
I thought of you in this scene.
I felt for her so much, not with like the religious zealousness of Christian Science, but with the giving birth in heat, because it was horrific. So yeah, but also, do you know what I found different about this birth? So obviously they're praying and everything, and that's fine, but they do what they want. But this seemed like a very, very early male entry into the room because there was still blood on baby. Normally they're like, keep the males out. There's no place for men in this room. But he came in pretty much straight away. Now after birth,
because normally they don't like them to until they've delivered the placenta, do they? So
exactly.
It's 1960 now, isn't it?
Oh yeah, got a council flat. Yeah.
We've
got one of the mod ones. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So she gives birth to this baby. Everything's all fine, they think. And there's a scene where Sister Julienne comes about the day after, because they come and visit them a few days after the birth, like carry on. It seems to be like once a day or twice a day in the early days in these.
It is, yeah, for the first 6 weeks, I think they've said in previous episodes.
I think they said that in the book, that they'll visit them every day for like.
Yeah. We had none of that. Anyway, that's by the by. So she's up high in the flat, and Sister Julienne comes in, and there's a neighbour there, and she's like, "Bleeding holy rollers, not you, sister." Just made me laugh because he was basically shouting at his wife because the baby was just absolutely screaming.
Yeah.
And obviously shouting about the baby screaming is not the way to go. But my baby was like that because it was so hot. It was just so hot. They just couldn't get comfortable. It was just horrific. Hers was like reflux as well, but his obviously was something a hell of a lot worse, which we'll go into.
But also the size of the nappy on that baby. It's not going to be nice in the heat.
Well, exactly. So anyway, Sister Julienne sees that there's something wrong with baby Raymond Prendergast's. I don't know why I said Prendergast. Just say baby Raymond. Make the whole contentious part of the name out. No, but she basically says that his collarbone seems to be broken. But it does happen in birth sometimes. The way she broke that news, she was so lovely with it, so calm. Like if I ever wanted any bad news, I want it delivered by Jenny Agutter, please. So if there's any bad news, can you just get her to do one of them videos you see on that you can get? That you pay
I'm
money
telling you, if we ever wanted to actually solve like peace in the Middle East or like any like huge inter-geographic nation state conflict or whatever, I'm just telling you, get Sister Julianne on the case. Like she will do it in like a day. She is so magnanimous and so gracious. She makes people just come together and feel so good. Like her ability to be so calm and diplomatic and wonderful and loving is unbelievable. That's all. And she does it with Cynthia later. Like we'll get there, but like anyways, we'll get there. But yes, she's just doing it over and over again. And the way she even said, she's like, it's no one's fault. This just happens. Like, I'm really sorry it has, but like baby bones heal really fast, like it'll be okay. It's all right. I mean, just like.
Well, then, so they obviously get the baby treated and they come back home and they've been given painkillers. But because of their, I don't actually know I don't know anything about that religion, but basically they're saying that they were praying for the baby and that they don't believe in medicine. So this poor little kid was there with no pain relief. And Sister Julianne was like, that's your belief, it's not mine.
I have to say, though, how many times do you take paracetamol for something? It doesn't really cut it, does it?
No.
So I think they're better.
They'd have given better. Did they just give them paracetamol or did they give them something a bit more hardcore, do you think?
No, it's just paracetamol.
Well, but also the thing is, like, I mean, it's a baby too, though. Don't forget. So, like, the baby's so tiny. Like, a little bit of paracetamol for a baby is probably way different than if we would take it, right? Like,
yeah, it's probably a bigger hit.
Well, I mean, like, I can take like I'm not saying I do this, but like, I could take like. Well, I have at times taken like 4 or 5 Advil at once, and like don't
do that, Jen. That's really dangerous. I mean it.
No, I know. I don't do it very often. It's only ever been like if I'm like really, really in pain with like period pain or something like that. But like,
still doesn't excuse it. Don't do it ever again. This is on record. Okay.
And don't publicize it when you do.
I'm just saying
this will come up in the inquest, Bex.
Yeah, the poison is in the dose, right? Okay, that's like a very common medical saying. Okay, like however much you take, that's where it can cause harm. And I think for a baby, like a little baby tiny paracetamol. Also, so I wasn't sure if Christian Scientists were also Jehovah's Witnesses or Mormons, but they're not. They're separate. I actually wouldn't have thought that like Christian Science really had that much presence in the UK. I was kind of surprised, but I'm sure.
I don't know if it did. It may have just been purely for this storyline, but there must be some people like if you're a Christian Scientist, hit us up. But yeah, it's not something I was fully versed with. But I'm not an expert on religion. There were at least
3 of them in Poplar in the 1960s.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, we saw them. We witnessed them. And also it shows that he got into religion later because she's like he got into his fighting again. So anyway, sorry, let's carry on first. So then he has a problem and she's like, I'm really concerned about his leg and it's not moving. And Dr. Turner's like, whoa, this looks like a break. And then Dr. Accuser, I've written here. Dr. Turner went very accusatory. Mr. Prendergast's temper did not help, but obviously they've thrown that in to kind of make it a bit of a.
I think that adds to the suspicion because he's obviously got a bit of a temper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the dramatic license right there for sure.
But at that point, when it was that, and I'm no medical expert, nearly am, but I'm not. But at the point where baby Raymond had a broken leg, I thought, oh, brittle bone disease maybe. Dr. Turner didn't just say it.
Well, what was okay? Yeah, you watched the episode already 4,500 times before.
I'm just the first time I watched it, Jen.
Well, yeah, but
basically a genius, yeah.
See, oh my goodness. Okay, like there's no way in heck you would think, oh, what about a really, really rare, really rare disease rather than something incredibly common? Unfortunately, like that, like.
No, I did though. I did genuinely think brittle bone disease.
Well, you probably thought that because you were watching a TV show and the parents were like so racked with guilt and like wondering, and then you were like, oh, I wonder if the dramatic device is really.
I don't think I'm a prophet or anything, Jen, but all I'm saying is I got there before Dr. Turner. I'm not bragging, but
Let's test this. If any listeners have got any health issues, send in your symptoms. We'll get Alex to diagnose you.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God, that'd be amazing.
We'll have like Grey's Anatomy like session or whatever where Alex is like, come into my office. I will say I did turn to my mom at some point after the parents were just so baffled about it. And I was like, wait a minute, is this one of those things where it's like a really rare disease or something like that? And she was like, oh yeah, I think it might be because we've obviously watched these episodes before. So then, I mean, we
nearly
did
up to my level.
Yes, definitely.
So anyway, Dr. Turner's like, look, you need to think about anything you've done, basically saying, have you shook the baby, thrown it across the room? And they're like, no. And Sister Julienne and him had a meeting about it. And Sister Julienne, again, such a wise woman. She was like, we must be wary of jumping to conclusions. So what Dr. Turner did was then contact NSPCC.
You just jumped straight to a conclusion.
Well, but the thing is, you're not, I mean, listen, I know I'm being a killjoy and not going along, but like the thing is, like, you're not going to wait for like a third broken bone. You know what I mean? This baby is not even like,
I would.
And thank God you don't work in any child protective services capacity.
I'd be like, 3 proves it.
3's a charm.
Call me when the other leg is broken. Yeah, that would be Becky right there. Well, and case in point, though, actually, so the baby, they do start the investigation. The parents are absolutely like heartbroken, understandably.
Well, there's a court order against them that the charity of.
Yeah, well, they remove Raymond from the home and they put it in a foster care situation, and then it's the foster mother or the foster caregiver, whatever, that comes into the Dr. Turner's clinic surgery. And says, I've literally been treating this child with kid gloves. Like I've been so careful because I want I know
it's still healing.
Yeah. Like I know they've already had these injuries, and she's like, but now I'm just really not sure. And she's like, and then they look at the baby's back, and there's a bump on the back, and they think it might be a fractured rib or something. They say.
Do you know what annoyed me here is that the foster mum is basically saying like, she's really shaken up and she's like, we've not done it. Like she starts to say, we've not done anything. And Dr. Turner immediately is like, oh, of course not. I was like, well, you weren't like that with the Prendergasts.
Because he had a temper.
You girls. But that's when he says, he's like, oh, wait a minute. Maybe like I need to think outside the box here. And then he goes to his medical books and he figures out that it's I think all they say, I mean, I don't think there's a more formal name. They say brittle bone disease, that, he's got this condition.
Wasn't it
osteo something stasis.
We're just medical geniuses.
Oh, Jesus, girls. Okay, wow. Like, talk about...
It was a Latin name, but it sounded like a comedy Latin name.
Osteogenesis imperfecta.
It's the imperfecta. It's like when you try and do an accent, you're like, imperfecta.
It sounds like a Harry Potter curse, basically.
So anyway, they obviously...
But there's less than 20,000 cases per year of this.
That's why it was so good that I actually recognised it.
You're like the Columbo of medical science, Alex.
I've got a squint and everything. But yeah, so anyway, so then it comes out. So NSPCC, by the way, can I just say, shout out to them. They're still going strong to this day. So yeah, amazing. Anyway, so then Dr. Turner and Sister Julienne kind of break the news to the Prendergasts that actually their baby's very poorly and that he'll probably end up in a wheelchair because of it, and because obviously it's going to affect his life massively. And then Dr. Turner's like, do you want to lift to the hospital? And they're like, no, I don't want to go anywhere with you after you've just literally...
I love that bit when they're like, no, we'll get the bus, thank you.
Yeah.
I really felt bad for everybody in that scene, actually.
Yeah, it was awful. It was awful.
Because, I mean, the parents have obviously gone through the ringer. They're innocent, but to be accused of something like that is terrible. And then talk to Turner, because you can tell he feels really bad. Like, he feels really, really bad.
It absolutely affected him mentally, horrifically.
Yeah, no wonder. Yeah, that was a really sad, very sad story all around. Because the thing is, even when they're exonerated and like everything with them checks out in a good way, then they end up getting this really sad diagnosis that is going to be following them around. And you know what it actually reminded me of? The episode that this was maybe in season 2 or in season 3, I think maybe season 2. It was a patient of Jenny's, and it was the mom who her baby was having so much trouble with
Martin and Ian.
Yeah, like they couldn't keep the food down, and they had all the and like Jenny was like, well, but maybe it's sanitation and maybe the the milk and this, and they like went over around to try to help her kind of get ahead of it. And she was just like, they're upset, like this baby is crying all the time. My older son is still not doing well. And like, and she was kind of spiraling out thinking it was her not doing something. And then the father says to Jenny, oh, there's this rare disease in my family history, and da 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 da. And then they figure out that both of the children do have that disease.
And it was the salt on the brow from Sister Monica Jones, cystic fibrosis.
Exactly. Cystic fibrosis. Yes, yes, yes. So even though like their kind of personal struggle like of their parenting has been resolved and no one's at fault, it's unfortunately like something no one could control, then they enter into like a new really challenging situation, which is my children have this really really challenging diagnosis and
that needs medical intervention, but they don't believe in it. So but obviously they didn't carry on going into that, but
I gotta be honest, I struggled with the Christian Science thing about like praying instead of giving modern medicine. I struggled with that as I was watching the episode. I mean, it didn't really focus, that wasn't really what the storyline was about, but it was just a feature of it. But
thank goodness, this is going to sound wrong, the baby had brittle bone disease, because Christian Science does allow for the fixing of bones,
setting of bones.
Yeah.
Well, I also wondered what would happen if she got pregnant again. Like, would the likelihood that they would have a child with that disease happen twice? Like, is it? I wondered, or if that's how I mean, we don't know that. But
well, as the world's leading expert on,
yeah, I was going to say, what's your medical opinion on that, Alex? What do you think the likelihood is?
I was joking.
I don't. Based on the numbers, I don't think it's genetic. I'm just going to put that out there.
We could actually just do a simple Google and find this out. But
here, I'll do it right now.
Well, in the meantime, let's talk about.
Well, I was going to say about Mr. Prendergast.
Oh, it is a genetic disorder.
Oh, we were wrong. I've obviously not got.
I think that's a comment on it. So bad medical commentary is going to be our second podcast, where we're just like, what about astigmatism? How often does that occur?
Maybe we could call it like medical prophecy, because I knew before Dr. Turner. Anyway, carry on.
Oh my God, Alex, you're like who's the guy? Who's Megan Maeve? You're like Nicholas somebody that they follow from their like naturalism or whatever.
I am.
Yeah, who's that guy's name?
I want to say Flamel.
Culpepper. Is it Nicholas Culpepper?
Yes.
Yeah, that's who you are. Except 2023.
I do have that many followers, so yes. Speaking of doctors, let's go on to Turner really quick. So he had a load of. So obviously, this was a really stressful case for him, and it wasn't nice to take kids away from the parents. It's just awful. This whole stressful situation. But
even when they still suspected the Prendergast, like he was still really struggling with the fact that he'd had to
call.
Yeah, and it also he is in his position of responsibility. He has to do something about it. You're right. He can wait for like third time's a charm. He had to do something about it.
And obviously, none of us would advocate for that. I mean, we were joking, of course.
Yeah, but also he was saying he had loads more patients at the start. He had loads more patients than he normally did, because another doctor. He was already covering one doctor's patient load, and then another doctor wanted 2 weeks in Bognor Regis, so he was like, Lyme Regis, and he was like, can you take the thing? He's like, okay. So he did that. So he had a lot of pressure on. Yeah, well, exactly. Though. So can I just say, just on this point, all those people with sun damage in the changing room really annoyed me.
I literally just Googled when was SPF invented, because I absolutely want to talk about sunburns being treated rampant as like a medical issue in this episode. Like there were like 80 patients that all just had like so many sunburns. Like you could just tell the costume, like the makeup department had to like rouge everyone's like necks and shoulders to a maximum effect, because they all had to look like they were sunburned. Like, okay, and by the way, I did just Google it. SPF was not invented until 1974.
14 years after. Anyway, Dr. Turner had this high pressure thing. He had so much going on. It was hot. It was busy. It was horrendous. And poor Fred goes into the surgery to get his back seen to. He'd done something to his back, and Dr. Turner was about to start examining him when he just lost it. He just lost his confidence in himself. He just had a bit of a funny turn. awful. So he basically said to Fred, "Oh, can you just leave a second? I'll be with you in a second." And then Fred had the good sense to go and get Mrs. Turner to Sheila, and she was like, "Right, everyone, off you pop. I know you've all been waiting here for ages, but we're gonna get it. You're gonna go." So
sorry, like she goes into him and she's like, "Wait, what's going on?" And he's like shaking. He's like absolutely freaking out. He looks like like an animal that's like been caught and is just like so terrified. I mean, he really has that like very like fragile
rabbit in the headlights.
And she's like, "Are you okay?" And he's like, yeah, I think I will be. Just a minute." Like he just seems so terrible. And she's like, "Okay, you know what? No, I'm gonna cancel all your patients." She's like, "No, you don't have to do that." And she's like, "Yes, I do have to do that. I am literally gonna do it right this very second. We're gonna take you home."
So good at that as well, though. She was so commanding and like, "No, this is what's happening."
Yeah. I mean,
does make him do handwriting lessons, but on the plus side of that, she is very commanding and does sort it.
I can't believe you didn't say put it in a drawer, Sheila. But anyway, so he goes home, basically goes on bed rest, and she's like, "I'm going to handle everything. Don't you worry about it. I'll take care of it all." And so then when they reopen the clinic, she's kind of trying to direct everyone and tell people, and she's like, "Listen, I can also see you, I can, for like more minor things and stuff like that, I can take care of you." And they're like, "No, we really don't want you to be seeing us. Like, you're just a receptionist." And she's like, "No, I'm a qualified nurse," which, by the way, a lot of these people should know that she's a qualified nurse because, I mean, she's been around in Poplar for like over a decade.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
she probably delivered half those children.
I was thinking that she'll have delivered loads of people's babies, but saying that, they wouldn't have recognised her without a habit on. Not everyone knows. Like, there's no such thing as Facebook, or everyone knows that she's like turned into a wife.
Well,
now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I guess she looks different because she was wearing a habit before, but. So then Patsy comes in to help and they're like, "Oh, I want to see her. I'm going to wait for her." And so she's like, "Okay, wait, none of this isn't going to work." So that's when she goes to Sister Julienne and says, "Can I have a nurse's uniform? I just need to, kind of like streamline this process or whatever." And so then when we see her back at the clinic, she's in the nurse's outfit. And, apparently that was enough for everyone else. They just were like, "Okay, as long as you put on the right outfit, then I guess I'm going to trust you." So then
shall we talk about let's pause on the Dr. Turner a second, because then we've got the cartoon. And then we should go back to Dr. Turner, I think, because the whole situation with Dr. Turner was kind of triggered by Dr. Amira cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
On that point about Sheila being in the nurse's uniform, though, my nephew was in hospital for a while, and I used to go and visit him on my lunch breaks and things. And sometimes when I would arrive, there would be like doctors in the room talking to them and things. So I would just kind of sit on a chair and wait for them to be finished. And there were some student doctors in there at one point, and they were like asking them loads of questions and things. And then they began to talk to me as if I was a medical professional. And I went, "Oh no, I'm just his auntie, I'm just visiting." And they were like, "Oh, we just saw the lanyard on you." And I'd still had my lanyard on because I'd literally just come from work. So actually, if we just wear a lanyard and go into a hospital, people will take us seriously.
You'll just be like, third time's a charm for a break. So
and Alex will just be consulting on cases. She'll be like, "Yes, I do agree with that opinion. Yep, surgery is imminent. Mm-hmm, yes."
Hello.
Right.
I'll be like, I'll have this podcast as proof. I'll be like, "Hello, I realised it was brittle bone disease before anyone else, before a qualified doctor."
You'd be like, "Yes, anterior bihemeral, catocombiny. Yes, oh yes, thank you. Yes, very good opinion." Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Jen, you're making stuff up now. I just say facts. Yeah. So.
Oh, like what? Do you want to give us a sample of fact?
That I recognised it was brittle bone disease before Dr. Turner. Okay, so. So Amira cartoon.
Yes.
Barbara, can we just talk about?
Are we going to come back to Dr. Turner?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, you literally just said that, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Yeah. So, all right, everyone, you can listen. Becky doesn't. It's fine. So
we all just come in and out. You know what I mean? Like.
Exactly. So anyway, Barbara, we all know how I feel about Barbara.
Yes.
She's not content with having enough work as a midwife in Poplar. She's going out looking for business. So they're by a school and she sees a mother who is Amira cartoon that we find out later. Can I just say how cute is her son?
Oh, he was also so mature. But he basically has to translate because Barbara finds out that she doesn't speak any English. So the little boy has to translate so that Barbara can encourage us to come to clinic, and then when they're doing an examination, And he's having, like, when she's talking about, like, we'll support you through the birth, and she's like, can you translate that for me? He's like, yes, absolutely. I'm just like, when does that little boy ever come across some of those terms?
Well, what made me laugh was in that first scene where Barbara starts talking to the woman, and the mom is just kind of like, yeah, I don't, she's just giving this expression without saying anything. She's just kind of like, I really am lost here. I don't know what you're saying. And then her son, the little boy, comes over and he's like, oh, she can't speak English. And Barbara's like, oh, okay, well, that's all right. Like something. And then he starts translating. But then literally, like, Barbara asks a question and the teacher comes out and says recess is over. And then literally, without saying bye or anything, he just runs away. And
that's what happens when the school bell happens. It still happens now to my daughter's school. The school bell happens. Don't matter what you're doing. She's like, ciao, just runs in.
Well, at least she says bye. I mean, he could have been like, listen, I gotta go. Like, can I meet you? I mean, like, he just runs.
He owes her nothing, Jen.
It was hilarious. Barbara was just sitting there like, like it was one of those things. Oh, but also interesting fact about Mrs. Khatun. Barbara first thinks that she is an Indian woman, and then figures out that she can find some information by looking in the health records and looks her up. Or no, not health records. She goes to the school and finds the family through the school. But the school, I don't know, admin, secretary, guidance counselor, whatever you want to call it, tells her that the family is not Indian. They are Sylheti, which is a smaller sect within the Bengal region of India. I literally Googled this yesterday when I was watching because I'd never heard of this.
Yeah. Well done. I did that, but you explained it much better than I would have.
Exactly. That's exactly what I just thought.
And they immigrated here, to the UK in 1960s in the show and everything. But they speak a different language, some different customs and everything. There's a lot that's similar, but it is demonstrably different. So that was a really
also the other thing to note on this. So Barbara goes to the Rolodex looking to see if she's on the records, and she's like, and she says to Trixie, or it might be Patsy, but she's saying, "Is there any? I'm looking on the Rolodex for an Indian woman." And there's none, 0 Indian women on the in the Rolodex. And obviously there will be Indian women living around Poplar, which we know there is, and Sylheti women and other nationalities. Yeah. But this is kind of the start of Barbara starting on that journey, getting more people of ethnic minorities to come to them as well.
Yeah.
I also loved when Barbara let Patsy know that she tracked her down, and Patsy was like, good Nancy Drewing, because as a child I was an avid Nancy Drew reader.
Oh yes. It's those are good books. I remember reading those.
My mum got me in the library. That. I wasn't into it. I'm not gonna lie. Sorry.
You're only interested in being a medical detective.
Well, yeah, I just read The Lancet.
And
Timothy
and like Grey's Anatomy and the
irony here is I am the most squeamish person ever, as if I'd ever read anything medical. So anyway, it's all going well. So Barbara basically gets her on the books. She gets Josie, who is the daughter of a man who's Sylheti that Fred knew. It's all very tenuous, but it's great. So Josie comes and translates, because there's a really awkward, as Beck said before, there's a really awkward scene at clinic where the son has to be there for it, and he's behind a curtain, but she can't.
But I think it's funny that he's literally sat on a chair behind the curtain. It's not even a cubicle with her.
Well, and what's it's not hilarious, really. It's not funny, but like he's there. Okay, granted, that makes sense that he's there. But then they ask, Trixie comes out and she says to Barbara, she's like, look, I need to do an internal exam, but I can't do it if I'm going to be talking to this like little kid, about it. Like that's just a little too intimate or whatever. And Barbara's like, oh yeah, that presents a problem. And so then they ask the little boy, they're like, does your mom have any friends? Like anybody? And he's like, no, like there's no women here. Like, we immigrated with my dad, but because my mom said that she would miss him too much if they had to be separated. And I was like, where is this father? And like, just spoiler alert, the father literally doesn't show up until the last 30 seconds of the episode of this show. Like I'm like,
work.
The dad isn't there for anything. I'm like, my God.
Maybe this is part of it's not the only reason I'm not a medical professional. I would have tried to sign it to her. I would have been like.
Now Becky has just done a very inappropriate.
I think they could have indicated what they wanted to do.
Well, I was talking to my friends the other day about this. So I went to a kid's party the other day and someone's pregnant. We were talking about it, and someone's about to have a baby. Anyway, we were talking about the fact that in 2017, I had my child, right? Mm-hmm. And they still, to this day, use fingers as an indicator of how how dilated you are. Now you
Yeah.
can measure things with lasers and everything nowadays. Why don't they do that to see how dilated you are rather than use fingers?
You'd prefer that they use a laser on your
Yeah.
vagina when you're
Yes,
in.
I'd much rather have it's surely more sanitary.
No,
You're
because they've
stuffing
still
your
got to go up there, haven't they?
You're wearing a glove and everything.
Do they wear gloves? I'm joking.
There's that measuring tool on an iPhone. They could just get their phone out and shine it up there.
Exactly, that's what I meant.
No,
Anyway.
I think no. You girls are being so.
No, I'm not behind this, Jen. I'm totally like. Also, the fact that you lot were having that conversation
at a kids' party. Anyway, so anyway,
I mean,
hang on, we're getting off. We're getting off. So anyway, so she gets
took us off track, and now you're mad that we're off track.
Are you talking about Pride and Prejudice again, you two? So anyway, so she has now on their books, and she's really excited about being. And she says she really misses female companionship. So there's this gorgeous scene where she brings samosas to Nonnatus House.
Oh, that was one of our deleted scenes.
Honestly, they don't know.
It was a lovely scene
because
she kind of looked that all the nurses and midwives were sat around the table having a lovely spread, and she kind of looked. I thought she looked longingly at them because I think she just really missed that.
I know, but I'm also with the samosas. So my friend after uni, I lived in a shared house. And my friend, his mum's Indian, and she made the most amazing samosas. And every time she used to come and visit, she used to give us like 5 massive bags for the freezer.
Oh, amazing!
And it just reminded me of them because they were so amazing.
I was gonna say samosas are a wonderful thing to give. Like they are delicious, especially like a real home cook that makes them really good. You know what I mean? Like somebody's mom or somebody's grandma or whoever who like really knows how to make them right. Oh my God, I love that kind of food.
I went to his brother's like 18th and they did the most because it was obviously all her family's Indian. So they just did this massive like buffet of Indian. Oh, it was the best food I've ever had in my life. Oh my Shout out to them. You know who you are. They're not gonna listen.
They obviously listen. They'll be like, oh my God, that might be us.
I'll be like, there's medical professional. Surely it's Alex. So anyway, so everything seems to be going really well and everyone's really happy and it's all yay. And then
but Mrs. Khatun is having really, really bad back pain and no one ever is figuring out why, right? So
that's just random, isn't it? That's not so she's got diphtheria, but that's not connected with the diphtheria, is it?
Well, it is, isn't it?
The backbone's connected to the diphtheria. I don't know. That's my medical knowledge for you. Or maybe it was like a chest thing, being the medical wonder that I am.
Oh, wait. Okay.
But anyway, her son comes up.
This is just running. A podcast of us Googling lots of
Well, I'm trying to talk along. But
symptoms?
I just Googled diphtheria symptoms. No, this is just an advertisement for Google services, basically, because that's what we're doing.
I don't think it needs more advertising.
So apparently you can experience chills, fatigue, fever, or malaise, and then a lot of muscle weakness, swelling, and things like that. So it sounds like...
I think she just had a bit of sciatica.
Yeah, I had sciatica.
Well, whose back doesn't hurt when they're pregnant, especially when you get really far?
No one. Yeah. So Amira Khatun's son comes running towards Nonnatus house and he's like, my mum, help, she's sick, help. And it's actually Sister Cynthia. Shout out to Sister Cynthia, Sister Mary Cynthia. It was so exciting. We need to talk about her as well in a minute. But so she's like, we need to go and sort something. So she runs to Dr. Turner's, which is when we're going back to Dr. Turner now. Right, so Dr. Turner's been in bed, convalescing. He's not well, but he's just had a scene with Timothy. Showing the community love, and bless Timothy. Can I just say, poor Timothy, holding the fort for them. She's off all day. He's in bed. He's looking after Angela, getting the tea ready, sorting out. He's even got a list. He's itemized everything that all the community's brought around.
And he's eating a bit of cake off that Mrs. B brought around, and he deserves that cake.
He deserves the whole flaming cake. Put your head in it, mate. And also he's there giving up pep talks to his dad. It's like, if I'm half as good as as you one day, I'll be proud.
Oh, Tim is so sweet.
I know.
And he's so mature. I mean, he's
He's had
so
to be.
ahead of his time.
Bringing
Yeah.
himself up, Jen.
In fact, I'm thinking of a couple of scenes like in later seasons of the show where he is just so truly wise beyond his years. I mean, obviously we'll not get into that now, but Tim is great.
So
The
anyway,
whole scene where Dr. Turner has basically gone to sleep and then woken up days later with all those tokens from all of his patients, it did put me in mind of, you know, those days when you leave your phone at home and you think, when I get home, I'm going to have a ton of messages on that phone. And then you get home and there's none. That would have been me in that situation.
But it's the opposite of that. Yeah,
I'd have been loads of messages asking for medical advice. So anyway, right, that's the last I'm going to do about that joke. So
no,
anyway,
no, it's not.
No, we all know it's not.
We all know.
So Sister Mary Cynthia gets him, and he's like, "Oh," she's like, "It smells funny, diphtheria." So she goes and runs. She's like, "I know, I'm really sorry. I know you're ill. I know you're not very well, but we really, really need medical intervention. The breathing's very shallow. I'm really worried that we're going to lose her." So he
says the flying squad's been called, but it's over 20 minutes since they've been called, and they're still not here. And like, we're
helicopter's
really
not landed.
Yeah, like this woman is like getting very, very bad, and like, yeah, we're not hearing any whoosh whoosh on the top of the building. So
yeah, so anyway, he was like, right, he comes to have a look at her, and he's like, we need to do tracheotomy right now. I need my bag.
And they're like, wait, and he's like, well, listen, what else do you want me to do? She's not breathing. Like, literally, she's gonna suffocate if I don't do this.
Yeah, so he runs to the surgery. I think he runs to the surgery before this, but either way, he's like, and I'm sorry, nurse, I need my bag. And then who turns around in the nurse's uniform but Mrs. Turner? And he's like, the look he gives her of like admiration, pure, unadulterated sex.
I was gonna say, it's a very like hot look between the two of them. Yes, it is.
She'll be wearing that later, I can tell you that for nothing.
And then she won't be.
Well, then she won't be, yeah. So anyway, he goes and he performs his tracheotomy. And can I just say, like, I've just not been very well for a few weeks, like with bronchitis and not feeling very well. I had a sickness bug. It was horrific. Like, to feel that ill and then have to perform a tracheotomy. Like, I could do it, but
of course you could, and you could do so much more than that. You know, you're so heroic and brave, and like, you know,
feeling medical terrible and then having to do that.
Well, I will say he does feel really bad, but the thing that we haven't touched on completely in this is, you know, he is overworked. It's the middle of summer. He's literally hot, like it's overheated all the time. Everyone in the episode is eating popsicles all day long, and he has an incredible caseload. You know, all of that is true. But really, what the problem is more that he's concerned, and Shelagh specifically is concerned about him having kind of a nervous breakdown, basically some kind of, you know, like a stress response, and then she's worried that if that leads to, you know, depression and like kind of, you know, remembering the trauma that he experienced post-war and going back to that issue, that then he's gonna, you know, really have a mental health problem.
Well,
that
she
he's
spoke
gonna have
to Julienne,
you know,
didn't she? Sister Julienne saying about shell shock, if the shell shock comes back. And
yeah. So that's what she's really worried about, is a relapse of like, you know, some really serious, you know, psychological.
She's not worried
issues.
about Timothy or Angela or anything.
No. She's like, oh, they'll be fine. They'll take care of themselves, especially Angela.
They just raise themselves.
Yeah, exactly. She just plops Angela in the other room. She's fine. But Sheila's right. You know, like rest, relaxation, you know, all of that kind of stuff is a really good treatment. You know, obviously more serious intervention is required if other things start to happen. But it seems like it seems like in the episode that Dr. Turner really just needed a break. And if he could just get some rest, some relaxation, you know, a chance to kind of, you know, recuperate. Yeah, that he was going to be able to bounce back, and it's both, you know, like the rest and everything, but then also, you know, seeing all of that, you know, response from the people of Poplar. Because the other thing he says explicitly in the episode is, you know, what if I make a mistake again? What if I misdiagnose someone again? What if I assume something and it's wrong and then someone gets hurt? Like, I'm really, really, really worried about that. And that kind of starts him like spiraling, you know, a little bit out of control. And then because he's so tired, because he's so overworked, because he's so stressed out, then he just kind of like gets a bit fixated. And then he kind of starts
he's starting to doubt himself, isn't he?
Yeah.
I have to say, we do say that Sister Julienne gives the best advice, but when Shelagh goes to her, Sister Julienne basically says, well, it's not wartime.
Calm
I don't think she was that. You know, yeah.
She was a bit glib, I'm not gonna lie. For Julienne, she was glib.
For Julienne, she was glib. For the rest of humanity, she was incredibly like sensitive,
supportive, and understanding.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Third time's a charm. Anyway, so
but visiting Mrs. Katoon really like then fully completes the revival of Dr. Turner back to kind of his old self. Yeah.
Well, I think it's a combination of obviously performing the tracheotomy, but the confidence to get it back was the community and Timothy showing that much confidence in him when he had no confidence in himself. So that was that's it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right, let's talk about system. Oh, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say it's understandable that he got burned out. I mean, he had a massive caseload. He took on the patients of a whole nother doctor's practice. And then there was some intimation, I feel like in the way that Sheila was talking, was that they even had extra responsibility on him for something else. I can't remember now.
It was somebody else's he was already covering.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, how much can one man take? I mean, my God, it's like, and he already serves like the whole popular community on his own anyway, even on just a regular day. I mean,
how much aloe vera could he apply?
Well, the thing, wait. Okay, I'm not going to say it now. I'll save it for Heroes and Zeros, but okay.
That's my zero, so we need to look into that, but we can have the same. Right, Sister Mary Cynthia, what a joyous day.
Well, and we got to see Sister Evangelina at the same time, because they were both at the Mother House.
And is that the first time we've seen the Mother House, or is that the first time I've noticed it?
I think it's the first time we've seen it. I
think.
We just saw the door, but
no, it's not the first time because didn't Sheila have to go and help? No, it is the first time.
No,
I'm thinking about
wait.
Episode.
Wait, didn't we see Cynthia at the Mother House when she was a novitiate, when she was praying when she woke up?
Remember, there was did Jenny go to the Mother House when she?
Yeah.
Yes, Jenny went to the Mother House.
Did we? To the window. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Yeah, Sister Evangelina was so kind, so supportive. It was like another person. She was so good though. The advice she gave her, like, if it's in here, that's what. If you're sure I'm in here, rest will all come to.
I was not loving the return of Sister Mary Cynthia.
What? What'd you say?
I wasn't loving her return.
Why? It was such a happy day, as Sister Juliana said.
It didn't like knock my socks off, but what do you mean?
Because Trixie is going through a really hard time at the moment.
Yes.
I did write this down, yes.
Yeah,
and at any point did she go to Trixie and she even noticed that Trixie had come to adore it, because Trixie had been sorting through all of her possessions and she'd been returning engagement gifts, and she's obviously going through the box of mementos, and she'd come across a photo of her and Cynthia, and she goes to speak to her. Cynthia saw her sneaking off because Trixie didn't want to intrude while she was praying. At no point has Sister Mary Cynthia said, "Oh, Trixie, you're having a really hard time at the moment. How are you?"
I know. I did think that.
That's what I thought as well, and I didn't know if you guys might have gotten an extra scene where they did have some kind of a conversation, but I thought it was weird too that Cynthia didn't try to, especially knowing, didn't try to say something to Trixie or connect with her, even just as a friend, just to say, "Oh, I'm back, I've missed you, how are you," and everything. I agree with you, yeah.
And I think I felt that Trixie felt that it's not this, like, she's back, but it's not the same.
Yeah, well, it must be a strange transition for Sister Mary Cynthia, in defense of her, because she's going back to her old life, but it's not her old life, because she's a completely new position, because she's now a nun. So it must be so strange. And she's also not doing midwifery. She's gone back, but she's only doing district for now. So I think she was a bit thrown there. And then she's trying to settle into this new life with, also she's got so much work to do to become a nun properly. So it must be hard. But yeah, I'm totally agreeing with you. That scene where Sister Winifred and Sister Mary Cynthia are going up the stairs and Trixie's coming down, sorry. And there's a scene, that scene's just so awkward, and you feel like Sister Cynthia should be like, "Trixie, I'm so sorry about you and Tom. I hope you're okay," and all this, but literally nothing's said, and it was very awkward. You are right there. But I was so glad to have her back, because she's just so gentle and loving and lovely.
I mean, I'll get there, but this episode I wasn't feeling it.
I'm kind of with you, Bex. I love her too. I'm glad to see her back, but this week I just kind of didn't have a lot of feeling too much about it.
I tell you which scene I did love with Sister Mary Cynthia was when Fred got her trusty steed ready back for her. But he was wearing a hanky on his head.
Yeah, The bit that got me though is where Cynthia, when they Farouk comes and alerts them at Nonnatus House that his mum's not very well and they have to run and get Dr. Turner, and he's literally just got out of his bed. And Sister Mary Cynthia basically bursts into the house and is like, "Doctor, we need you." That was the first time he's seen Sister Mary Cynthia since she was just Cynthia.
Oh yeah.
I would have been like, "Oh my God, Cynthia."
We've got to sit down and have a couple before we do anything else. It's been so long. Catch me up.
She's like, "No, you've got to perform a tracheotomy now."
Yeah. Oh,
So
and also, like, with addition with Fred having a napkin on his head, he also like was almost topless this whole episode.
Yeah, just in his vest. It must have been so hot though.
Yeah, but I was like, oh my goodness, Fred, like, wow, scandalous outfit choice there.
There was a point though, actually, when I think about it, when Fred was doing the gardening and then he pulled his back and then they sit him on the chair, and at one point I was like, oh my God, Fred's a bit ripped, and then I was like, oh my God, what's wrong with you?
There's something wrong with you there. He's not. But also, I thought he'd pulled his back, not pulled his back. I thought he pretended to pull his back just to get a chair. But then he had just bad acting on his part. Sorry, Cliff, who plays him. I just genuinely thought he'd done that to get a chair and an ice cream. But he actually had hurt his back. Can I just say that scene with the midwives out in the garden, having ice lollies, having a big old chat. Oh, I loved it. I was like, this is what Call the Midwife's about. Again, another reason why I wanted to do the podcast. That was another scene that I thought, oh, delicious. I love it.
And especially Phyllis, like putting her feet in a bowl of cold water and then like leaning back in that like kind of lounge chair like one that they had. Oh, I was like, I would give anything to be Phyllis on a hot day. Like, she just is doing it absolutely right. I mean, I would 100%. Love the ice lollies as well, but the feet in the cold water, oof, so nice.
Yeah. So on the subject of midwives, we've touched a little bit about Trixie. But Trixie with the engagement presents, giving them all back. Like those parcels, I thought you might quite like those parcels, Bex, and the brown paper and the.
Do you know what though? I think she's in the days of sending letters. Thank goodness she doesn't have to tell everybody face to face what's happened. She can just write them a letter.
Yeah.
Nowadays,
she'd just do a big Facebook post.
Well, I was gonna say she's also nowadays she'd have to delete all the photos of them as a couple off Instagram. You know, like all those ones where it's like, oh, I love our weekends together, or like, you know, so happy to do life with you, or whatever. She'd have to delete.
She'd have totally had the Instagram post of like a ring.
Yes. Oh, Trixie definitely would. Definitely would. For
you know
sure.
What? This is a weird fact I'm just going to share with you right now. I'm not Facebook official with my husband. I'm not in a relationship on there. I'm not like, you know, people like in a relationship is complicated. We're married. I just find the whole thing cringe.
Are you friends with your husband on Facebook?
No, I am. Yeah, I am. But I'm not like in a relationship with or married to. I'm just nothing. I don't.
Oh, see, I think that's fine. I think that's fine. I think
it
Facebook
makes me cringe.
Facebook statuses and everything to me are just like, who cares?
Yeah, and I'm not even on Facebook, so I can't.
Well, you are, as we call the midwife now.
Yes, exactly.
Never logged on once. Anyway.
Oh wait. Okay, we're not going to say names, but do you guys remember when we were in uni and there was the girl who got engaged and then her engagement broke up and she didn't give back any of the engagement stuff? Remember, wasn't this the first year she got engaged to her boyfriend and then they broke up? And we had, and as a group of friends, like we had all given her like stuff to celebrate the engagement, and then they broke up at some point, really not that long after. And we were like, well, can we have all of our stuff back? And she was like, no, I'm not giving anything.
I didn't ask for anything back.
I don't think we asked for anything. I think we just talked about it amongst ourselves, and then. But
I've had to write it in the chat because Becky was looking really confused.
No, I didn't know. I knew who she was talking about. I've just got a confused look on my face constantly.
Bex is like, I have resting confused face.
Well, all I know is she fed homeless people for a whole year and didn't remember it. So you know, we didn't know.
Well, and famously never knew she had an ice cream cone until her mother had to tell her she had when she was like 30 years old.
So insulted your mum. Anyway, back to Trixie. So she's doing all the engagement party stuff. Also, can I just say, poor Trixie do it all. You know what I mean? He's probably got some of his. Maybe, hopefully, he's given them to his parishioners or something. And it was just so awkward living so near to each other.
Oh my God! Yes.
Ugh.
Yes.
Can we talk about Trixie's hair as well? I feel like Trixie's hair went up a gear from the last episode.
100%.
It really did. It really did. Yeah.
And was it a wig or was that her actual hair?
I think it was just teased to the gods. Yeah, I think they just. I think they just teased it up and like sprayed it to within an inch of its life. Yeah, definitely.
But well done, Trixie, for biting the bullet and going to see Tom and have a big
Yeah.
chat.
Yeah.
But we should say that it was a Mira cartoon that triggered her to do that, because it was when Farouk was talking about the fact that his mum had followed his father over to England, that she realized. And last week I was very like,
to the moon.
Yeah.
Oh, to the moon. Yeah.
And last week I was like, no, if Trixie wasn't an alcoholic, she could totally just marry Tom and do this job. Whereas now I see that actually she wouldn't have followed him, because she just doesn't love him that much.
Exactly. But also I thought it was quite inappropriate when they actually did have their chat, they had it on the bench where he proposed. Like, they could have done it somewhere a bit less
triggering,
iconic in their relationship.
Triggering? Yeah, exactly. Okay, wait, here we won't have to go into a huge big thing, but here's a question for you guys. Do you really think that like love will conquer all? Like, do you really think that if you love someone enough, like you'll make anything work? Or do you think at a certain point love just isn't enough in a relationship?
You've got
like
basically someone's always got to be prepared to compromise, and if both of you aren't prepared to compromise, then one of you just you're going to get resentful, aren't you? So
yeah,
no is the short answer. Everyone has to compromise.
Yeah, and I think it just depends entirely on the circumstances. Like, sometimes it's just not enough.
Well, I don't think with Tom and Trixie, I mean, I'll say this, I agree it's not enough. If you're not with the right person, doesn't matter how much love you have, like you are not going to be able to like make it work. But in the case of like Tom and Trixie, I don't think either one of them could have loved each other more and then like made it work out. You know what I mean? Like, there were just things that were fundamentally not gonna work out. And like, you shouldn't have to make yourself unhappy because you love somebody, or to like do something that will then like make the relationship work. Like, if it's just not working for you. And I'm not talking about little things, I'm not talking about petty things. Al, to your point, I 100% agree. I think compromise is absolutely fundamental. But I'm talking about like when there are big things, like just because you love each other, like, no, I mean, you need the love, you need all that, you know. But anyways,
and I think it's a real light bulb moment for Trixie. Like, she just realizes that it's not what she thought it was.
But hopefully that helps her move on as well.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot to be said for like having a romantic ideal, like something you really aspire to, and then like really like and keeping that, not losing that, but then like really dealing with the real world when it comes right down to it, you know. Because I think there's a lot of stuff about Tom that she absolutely was like, oh, he's perfect for me, you know, like we all know the whole list, right? And then but it's still not the right person. Anyways, I don't know, they just like, I'm glad they got married in real life. If they didn't, I would have been so sad about this.
Right, just to not the right person. On that, did anyone notice Compline again this week?
I saw a scene where they were in there, but I only noticed main characters in there. Sorry.
There were extra nuns this week, and it's not the right people because it should be us. Can we start a campaign? Hashtag recall the midwife for Compline.
In Compline. Recall in Compline. Yes, that's what our hashtag should be.
Recall pod in Compline. We'll work it out. We'll make a better one. But yeah.
Yeah. Yes, we need to be those nuns in Compline.
Yeah. If anyone knows any writers or anyone who works on the show, runner, producer, makeup, let it be known that this has to happen. There's three of us.
Helen George, if you're listening, get in touch.
Yeah.
Right, heroes and zeros, ladies.
Right, so my zero is going to be Sister Mary Cynthia.
That's your zero.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Go off.
I mean, I appreciate that her life has now gone in a different direction, but I just feel like she's completely, I know that her and Trixie aren't on the same paths anymore, but I don't like the way she's just dropped Trixie.
She's castigated her.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So my zero is Sister Mary Cynthia. My hero this week is going to be Barbara for a Nancy Drewing.
Nancy Drewing!
Yeah. And also, did you notice at the end when Amira is back in clinic with her baby, and there are other, now I don't know whether they're Indian or Sylheti, but there are other women from other ethnic minorities. So as Alex said at the start, it's the start, like Barbara's bringing them into the clinic.
Yeah, that literally was my was my hero, but you can have it. I love it.
Oh, sorry.
No,
she's literally she's bringing them into the community. Yeah,
Max, don't worry, because Alex's hero is going to be Barbara for like the next like 15 weeks. So like, don't even worry about that. Like, we all know where that's going. So yeah.
Right, Jen.
Okay, I'll go first. I may steal yours. Okay, my zero this week is summer. I'm not a summer girly. Okay, I'm not doing summer. We're about to head into summer. I live in a place with a hot climate. I'm not excited about it. I don't want to do it. And as a extremely pale person, a person of pale skin experience, this summer is my like natural born enemy. Okay, so when I tell you that I am so blessed to live in a time where really SPF like technology is wonderful. Like, I am so excited about wearing SPF. I wear SPF every day all year round, as everyone should.
She tells us to wear it
constantly. Yeah.
Yes, listeners, you need to wear sunscreen every day. Okay.
Yes, use your platform. Do it.
Yes, listen. I finally have a voice. I finally have a public forum, and I am just going to take a quick moment to step on my soapbox and say, you need to be wearing sunscreen every single day. If your skin is exposed to the sun during daylight hours, you need to have SPF on. But so really,
also, Jen, you tell me that I even need to wear it when it's not sunny.
When it's not sunny. Yes, exactly. It doesn't matter what the weather is. If the sun is out and if it is daytime, 365 days a year, you have to have SPF on. The only time you don't have to wear SPF is if it's dark outside. And
do you know what I wondered though? Maybe they didn't have to back then because there wasn't ozone damage.
No, they had to, but SPF wasn't invented. Like, I Googled it early, remember? Like, SPF didn't exist until the 1970s.
But maybe they didn't get sunburnt as bad because there wasn't the ozone damage.
Oh, well, that's probably true. Yes, but
so scientific.
I know. Well, I mean, I do consider myself to be an SPF scientist. Like, I have read a lot about it. But I will say this, like, you can also protect yourself other ways. You can wear hats, you can wear protective clothing, you can wear like any of those. Shade, definitely take advantage of shade whenever possible. I mean, there's lots of ways to protect yourself from the sun. I mean, when I tell you, like, I have stories of really severe sunburns in my childhood, and all of my family have stories. I mean, there's a story my dad used to tell of his sister getting a sunburn, and like, I'm telling you, this is family canon. Like, we have literally passed the story down on generations. So sun damage, and the people of Poplar should have known better, because I'll tell you what, the people in Poplar were all pale people like me, and they should not have been wearing all those sleeveless dresses and like tank tops and no hats, no anything. I know it's hot, but come on.
Anyway, everybody pray for Jen this summer.
Seriously.
Yeah. And pray for us, because we're going to get wear SPF. I do actually wear it every day.
I know you guys do.
I'm trying, Jen. Maybe every other day I'm there.
Okay, well, I just have to keep on going after you a little more then. So now that I've taken that super long-winded zero, so my hero is going to be just seeing Sister Evangelina again. I love to see her. It's not a big one. It's not like really revelatory or whatever, but I just think she's the best. And yeah, that's going to be my hero. I'll give it to her.
She was very encouraging of Sister Mary Cynthia.
Yeah, she was. I've never seen her be that kind before, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Like, fully kind without a jibe to someone else at the same time to counteract the niceness.
It's like, when she showed up, like, we haven't seen her for a couple of episodes because she's been away, recovering. And I just thought, oh, Sister Rachel. And I was so excited to see her again. And I was like, oh, when's she coming back and everything? And she just always has like really great one-liners. And, so yeah, I'm going to give her the hero this week. Okay.
So my hero, it was going to be Barbara, but it's not going to be anymore. It's going to be Josie, the Sylheti speaker, because also in the scene you spoke about, it's Josie in the background working there as like taking up a free time. She's not going to be paid, but translating for these women. I just think that is so amazing that she's done that with this little, and she said it made her feel closer to her dad. And I just think it's a whole positive thing to be doing for a community. So well done, Josie. That was really amazing for her. I just really liked it, but obviously it was Barbara, the whole thing behind it. I love her. My zero this week is specifically the man with the sunburn who wanted to wait for a nurse because he didn't even look that sunburn, and he was wearing a vest, and I wanted to punch his face in. So.
Also, I hate to say it again. I'm just going to go back on my soapbox. Like, what do you think a nurse is going to do for you? What? I mean, you made a joke about aloe vera, but like, yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, the only way to treat a sunburn is to put ice packs, put aloe vera, like make sure you take the heat out of it as quickly as possible, hence ice packs, and then basically moisturize the skin, because at this point you've literally burned it off and you just want to make sure that it doesn't like seize up and then like crack and get, like other damage or whatever. So like, what do you think a nurse is going to do? She ain't going to give you any, I don't care what year it is. In 2023, she's not going to give you anything for a sunburn.
Not gonna lie, Jen, I don't think he was very cerebral. He's just an actor being told to do that, but as far as the actor
tell
goes,
I have a lot of like medical trauma
it as a
around
right
some.
thicko. So
well, you know what else? There was a mom and daughter in the clinic too, who Sheila was like, oh, like something, and she's like, oh no, I think we'll just come back. I don't really think you're gonna be able to help me with this. And her daughter had like a whole ring of like red around her like neck and like on her shoulders and everything, and it was just like, okay.
There was one year I went to Glastonbury. It was the first year of uni, do you remember? And we came back in time for the thing. And I went to Glastonbury and I'd covered myself in sun cream. I was really good, apart from I forgot the back of my neck. And to this day, I was in agony. And I've still got, and I was just drinking vodka and orange all the time. It wasn't really thinking that much. And I can't have vodka and orange anymore. It's put me off for life. Anyway, I had the worst sunburn just at the top of my neck, and I've still got so many freckles there from sun.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
Yeah. Like, please take care of yourselves this summer. And by the way, regardless of your skin tone, every color of skin needs to be wearing SPF. It doesn't matter if you're a very, very pale person, if you're a very, very deep skin tone. Everybody needs to be wearing SPF every day of the year, but especially the Western Hemisphere is heading into their summer season. Please take care of yourselves. Protect yourself from sun damage. Skin cancer is so preventable. I'm just telling you, like, please be careful.
Jen is in collaboration with Baz Luhrmann here. Anyway, so
Jen is going to be launching a separate beauty podcast, surely. Skincare.
I would love to. I would be honored to do it, but I just...
Yeah, you'd be actually really good at that. Me and Becky just be there trying it out. So I think that's everything, is it? Has anyone else got anything else to say about any of the episode?
No. I loved all the presents everybody brought to Dr. Turner. I thought that was so sweet. I know we already covered it, but I just thought it was so many.
No, I love the fuzzy sweets one. The fuzzy sweet. He was like, the kids have brought them, they got a bit of fuzz on, and I was like, and on that note, next week we will be listening to series 4, episode 6. Yes, episode 6.
And I've got a lot to say about that episode.
Oh, I'm not on that. I can't remember
I don't even know what happens in that one. Yeah, I literally can't remember which one it's about.
I'm excited. Have you already written notes and everything, Bex?
I've not written notes, but I've watched it.
Oh, I'm excited.
Oh, and you get to do a synopsis for it, so you'll do a really, really good one. Yeah.
Ooh.
Cover all the bases.
So please follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us. Remember to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you like to listen through there. And we will hopefully see you next week. So if you watch the episode and then you can listen along with us. So thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.
See you next week.
Wear your SPF. Bye.